if somebody comes to me and says something that's absurd, you know, I'm going to do my level best. Like, even if my gut reaction is like, moron, right? I mean, I might think that sometimes. I'll be like, well, wait a minute, dude, don't be a dick about that. Like, well, tell me, you know, why do you think that, right? Like, what, you know, that's not the way I see it, but let me hear your case. Maybe
you don't speak for those people.
No.
See, that's another thing. It's like, I speak for all black people when I say this because...
Was there a quorum?
Yeah, because I'll have my friend next to me, he'd be like, you don't speak for me, motherfucker.
Yeah.
It's like,
yeah, right.
I speak for all this, or like, as a mom, I know that all moms will believe this. And this is interesting, dude. I've had many conversations with this, is like, I was having a conversation about this with reparations.
Yeah.
And so there are people I know, obviously black people, talking about reparations, saying that there are people who don't, there are other black people who don't believe in reparations, and then they put in quotations black.
Yeah.
So it's like, if you don't agree, you're not even black anymore.
Yeah, that's right.
So-called black people don't.
That's right. You're a race traitor. You're an Uncle Tom.
Yeah, exactly. You're a whitey. You're a cracker in disguise. And so it's super weird. Like,
it's scary, man.
It's another. See, if you begin to notice these things, you can come at them, and we can provide lots of tools to come at them. You want to understand them first. So, for example, the idea that your personal experience has anything to do relevant with the facts or with a debate.
That's right.
It's like I was raped.
Yeah.
Therefore, you know, this, and this. It's like, no, your experience has nothing to do with the argument and with the statistics and with the facts and what should be done. In fact, I would even argue that your experience colors it too much emotion, and it causes you not to even think straight. But it's disingenuous because it's irrelevant to the conversation when we're talking about what needs to be done on a broad scale about these kind of things. Your personal experience is irrelevant.
Let me show you the flip side of this, which is very ironic, right? Because some of the same people who are making that argument are very logically inconsistent sometimes, right? So sometimes personal experience is relevant, sometimes it's not for some of these folks who are indoctrinated into this way of viewing the world. So I'll give you an example. So I have a very dear friend of mine who, one of my favorite people in the world, absolutely love this guy. He happens to be a guy who studied, I won't say what precisely because I don't want to identify who he was, but he studied some, you know, very social justice-y topic in school. And he actually happens to be working in that field. It's like one of the 1 in 1,000 people who got a job, you know, after doing some kind of like race studies or gender studies or something like that, right? Now, he and I were getting in an argument about this stuff. And I was questioning this notion that you can judge an individual person's sense of difficulty in life. How do you know how difficult my life was? How do you know how difficult anybody's life was? And the fact that I am a mostly white guy, I'm actually like 9 different races. I think it's possible my great-great-grandma was black, although there are people, you know, it was a funny thing. There are people in my family who would deny that, which it shows that racism still does exist.
Wow.
Because the fact that you would still, you know, that you would deny that shows that.
You smell Mexican.
Do I smell Mexican?
Your third leg is Asian.
Okay.
So you might be 9 different.
Hey, easy now, easy. Yeah, right. Oh shit. So, you know, interesting how like now I find offense to that, right? So well, there's a stereotype, which I don't know if it's true or not.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Anyway, so what's funny about this is that he was making the argument because I'm white. Okay, now I look like a white guy, even though I'm you know also a good chunk Italian too, so that's Latin. So you know maybe does that qualify? Are Italians people of color? I don't know.
Yeah. Do we need to go to a paint store and be like, which version of white are you? Like, there's a spectrum of white. Like, are you eggshell white? Are you off white?
And by the way, I think anybody who's actually white out there, I think you probably got a little more other race in you than you think. You know, the Moors were interbreeding with a lot of us. You know, throughout Europe and anyway. Because I'm a white guy, he believes that any difficulty I went through does not compare to the difficulty of anybody who is a person of color. And it's like, okay, I get that, yes, in the United States, there was systemic, structural oppression against black folks even after slavery, okay, for a long time. And there is still the residue of that in our society, no doubt, absolutely no doubt about it. But what I will not accept is that just because somebody is one color means that all of their suffering is more significant than all of yours. I mean, it's like the example we were talking about this morning. Are you telling me you would rather be Sean Stevenson, who was born with this disease that made all of his bones brittle, and now he's this like very tiny man,
and he can't really move properly,
who could barely move properly, and happens to be a motivational speaker? You would rather be him than Jay-Z? Really? Because he's a white man. His suffering must not be anything compared to any other black person's suffering. I'm sorry, but fuck that. It's ridiculous. You don't know what an individual person's suffering is like. Okay, and to be able to say that because this person is this identity or that identity, it automatically should give them more social justice points.
Yes.
Who determines that scale? And why are some things more important than others?
It's based on emotion now. Like, to circle back to my point about the rape being irrelevant to the conversation, so I don't get completely fucking skewered.
Yeah.
If we're talking about, let's say someone's raped on campus. Now it's like, now she will say generally this at least generally that I see in YouTube, and that can be glorified, the minority of it, but like what I've seen and what we can have tendency to do is to generalize, right? It's like if you are gang beaten and robbed by a gang of Somalis in America, now the tendency is to generalize and now hate Somalis.
Yeah.
Because you're scared of them and you hate what you're afraid of and things like that. And the same with, say, a rape on campus. Now the campus is, let's say the rape case wasn't handled in the most efficient way, or this and that. All of a sudden, or maybe it was held in a terrible way, and the dude got off and it was just like bullshit. Well, now, from her experience, the entire campus is nothing more than a breeding ground that allows and accepts rape.
Right.
But that's one case.
Across we're using one case.
Yes, and that is the whole point of what we're saying here is that one case will then, that has nothing to do with the facts. And that's what I mean by it's irrelevant. It doesn't mean her experience is irrelevant.
That's right.
It doesn't mean that experience wasn't bullshit. Maybe it was fucking rigged or fucked up. But that doesn't mean you can generalize and say the entire landscape is what your experience was.
Yeah.
And then try to force policy and legislation and force people to change based on your own experience.
Yeah. You know, when I was a kid, when we were taught about racism, you know, the idea behind why racism was anathema in society was that it did not give the individual a chance to express themselves as an individual. And that is something I am completely behind, right? Like, I don't think you should judge somebody because they're black, Asian, Hispanic, white, gay, trans, whatever, right? See them on their own merits.
Yes.
That was the reason why racism was anathema back then. But it has transformed. It's like it's metamorphosized into something totally different now.
The definition is transformed to the oppression narrative, and it's based on for example, I know this in the States. I don't know if this is seeped anywhere else. I just haven't done that research. I can't see that. But what I do see is the definition has changed for racism as far as between, say, blacks and whites in America. Yeah. That is, if you were historically oppressed by white people, then you cannot be racist.
Yeah.
They can be racist back because it's reverse discrimination. I see that all the time. It doesn't mean everyone does it. In fact, most don't. It's the loudest chirping
that's right.
But it tends to infect.
Most folks are pretty reasonable.
I know. It's we preach to the choir most of the time, but it does infect slowly everybody.
It does.
And that's what's dangerous about this, and that's why we got to fucking stop this. But the idea that the definition of racism is such now that you cannot, the oppressed minority cannot be racist to the one that they believe has been oppressed.
That's the narrative.
You cannot be racist. So it's like it's impossible. So they could straight up hate you.
Yeah.
For the color of your skin, and it's not racism.
Yeah, that's the ironic thing. And to me, it's a very toxic way to run the world. And there are a lot of people standing up against this now. And let's transition to another topic here in a minute, because I mean we could probably go on this for hours. And I think people are getting the point. But to me, if the idea here is to give everybody a fair shake, and to create a world where people are getting along, demonizing one group of people en masse is not the answer, guys.
Especially based on the past.
Yeah. And I mean, like, for a guy like me, I take a special offense to this, and I'll tell you why. Because I had a pretty difficult upbringing. I would say by anybody's standards, and I'm not going to get in here and tell a sob story and get into it. But if I told you, you would be like, holy shit, really? Like, you went through that? You probably wouldn't believe most of it, okay? So, but I'm not gonna cry about it. I'm not gonna complain about it. But when I hear people say that my suffering is bullshit, like that buddy of mine I was telling you about, the word he used was, well, you may have had some challenges when you were young. Challenges, motherfucker! Like you don't know what the hell you're talking about. Like,
by the way, that is a minimizing word.
It is a minimizing word.
In marketing, we'll use the word, and today you can get this for only $10 million.
Yeah.